Imagine a life where nothing and nobody can hurt you again, where other people's words no longer cut into your soul, where betrayals no longer crush your spirit, and where the chaos of the world cannot disturb your inner peace. Sounds impossible, right? But Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists of all time, believed that this is exactly what becomes possible when you understand the hidden dynamics of the human mind. Today, in this first part of our three-part series, we'll explore how Jung's teachings can make you unshakable, not by controlling the outside world, because you never can, but by transforming your inner world so completely that the external storms no longer decide your fate. So, let us dive into Jung's wisdom and discover how to build an inner fortress so strong that nothing and nobody can hurt you again. 1. The illusion of control. One of Jung's most profound insights was that much of our suffering comes from trying to control what we can't. We want people to treat us kindly. We want the world to be fair. We want everything outside us to behave in ways that protect our fragile hearts. But here's the truth. You can't control the world. You can't control other people. Jung often said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." This means that freedom doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from transforming yourself. You can't stop the storm, but you can build a shelter strong enough that the storm no longer terrifies you. Why people hurt us? Why do other people's actions or words hurt so much? Jung's psychology points us to the answer: projection. When someone insults you, betrays you, or mistreats you, it feels like they've attacked your very soul. But in truth, most people act out of their own unconscious shadows. They project their own fears, insecurities, and wounds onto others. Jung called this the shadow, the hidden, denied parts of ourselves that we push away but can't escape. When someone lashes out at you, it often has less to do with you, and more to do with the shadows they cannot face in themselves. Think about it. The person who calls you weak is often terrified of their own weakness. The person who mocks your dreams is often the one too afraid to pursue their own. Once you understand projection, you stop taking things personally. Their words no longer cut you, because you realize, it's not about me, it's about their shadow. 3. The armor of self-knowledge. Carl Jung believed that the greatest protection against pain is self-knowledge. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What does this mean? It means that the less you know yourself, the easier it is for the world to hurt you. If you're insecure about your worth, every small rejection will feel like a dagger. If you haven't faced your own fears, every insult will feel like confirmation of your worst beliefs. But once you truly know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your shadows, your gifts, the world loses its power to wound you. Someone may insult you, but you've already faced that part of yourself. You've accepted it. Their words bounce off your armor of self-knowledge. Jungian psychology doesn't promise that people will stop being cruel. It promises that cruelty will stop defining you. For the power of detachment. Jung also believed in the power of detachment, not as coldness, but as freedom. When you are overly attached to how others see you, you are vulnerable to every opinion, every judgment, every mood swing of the people around you. But when you learn to detach, when you stop living for approval, something extraordinary happens. You become untouchable. Their praise no longer inflates you, and their criticism no longer deflates you. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop giving them the keys to your inner peace. You love, you connect, but you do not hand over control of your worth. 5. A story of transformation. Let's imagine a young woman named Maya. For years, Maya lived in fear of rejection. She made herself small so others would like her. When someone criticized her work, she cried for days. When someone ignored her, she felt invisible. Then, Maya discovered Jung's work. She realized that her pain didn't come from others, it came from within. The criticism hurt because she doubted herself. The rejection crushed her because she hadn't yet accepted herself. Slowly, she began to face her own shadow. She admitted her fears. She accepted her flaws. She discovered her inner strength. And one day, she noticed something strange. When people criticized her, it no longer broke her. She listened, took what was useful, and let the rest go. Maya hadn't changed the world. She had changed herself. And now, nothing and nobody could hurt her the same way again. 6. Turning pain into power. Carl Jung believed that pain is not the enemy. Pain is the teacher. Every time someone hurts you, it reveals a wound within yourself that still needs healing. If rejection destroys you, it points to your need for self-acceptance. If betrayal crushes you, it points to your need for stronger boundaries. If criticism devastates you, it points to your need for self-knowledge. Instead of running from pain, Jung invites us to face it, Because every wound is a doorway to deeper strength, the hurt becomes a signal. Here is where I must grow. Ending teaser for part 2. So in part 1, we've uncovered the foundations of becoming unshakable, the illusion of control, the role of projection, the armor of self-knowledge, and the power of detachment. But this is only the beginning. In part 2 we'll go deeper into Jung's wisdom and uncover the hidden techniques to transform your pain into wisdom, to face the shadow directly, and to reclaim the kind of power that makes you unbreakable. Because once you learn how to integrate your deepest wounds, you'll realize nothing and nobody can ever hurt you again. In part 1, we explored how projection, self-knowledge, and detachment can protect you from the pain caused by others. We saw how Jung's insights allow you to build an inner armor that makes you resilient against the world's cruelty. But now it's time to go deeper. Because Carl Jung didn't just want us to protect ourselves from hurt. He wanted us to transform it. He believed that pain itself, if faced directly, can become the very source of our strength. So in this second part, we'll explore 3 powerful Jungian ideas that take you from merely surviving hurt to transcending it entirely, confronting the shadow, learning the art of inner alchemy, transforming wounds into wisdom and power. Let's begin. 1. The courage to face the shadow. Carl Jung's most famous concept is the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we deny, suppress, or reject. This includes our fears, insecurities, weaknesses, and even the darker sides of our personality. Most people spend their lives running from their shadow. They pretend to be strong when they feel weak. They project their flaws onto others. They hide behind masks, terrified that the world might see their imperfections. But here's the paradox. The more you run from your shadow, the more power it has over you. And this is why people's words hurt you so deeply. When someone says something that touches your shadow, it feels unbearable, because they've exposed the very part of yourself you haven't yet accepted. The solution: don't run, face it. Look directly into your shadow and say, yes, that is a part of me, but it does not define me. When you integrate your shadow, it loses its ability to wound you. You become whole, and in that wholeness, you become unshakable. 2. Inner alchemy, turning pain into gold. Jung often described psychology as a kind of alchemy, the ancient art of turning base metals into gold. He believed that the human soul works the same way. When you face your pain, you can transform it into wisdom, strength, and power. Think of it like this. Pain is raw material. At first, it feels ugly, heavy, and unbearable. But if you process it consciously, if you reflect, learn, and grow from it, that same pain becomes your greatest treasure. For example, a heartbreak may feel like destruction, but it can also teach you resilience and self-worth. A betrayal may cut you deeply, but it can also teach you to set stronger boundaries and trust yourself more. A rejection may wound your pride, but it can also redirect you toward opportunities that align with your true self. This is inner alchemy, the process of transforming wounds into wisdom. And once you master it, pain no longer scares you, because you know, whatever comes, you can turn it into gold. 3. The archetype of the wounded healer. One of Jung's most profound insights is the wounded healer archetype. He believed that those who suffer deeply often become the greatest sources of healing for others. Why? Because pain creates empathy. When you've walked through the fire, you understand others who are burning. When you've been broken, you know how to comfort the broken. But here's the key. You can only step into this archetype once you've healed your own wounds. If you stay stuck in your pain, you bleed on others. But if you transform your pain, you become a guide, a healer, a source of strength. This is why Jung believed that suffering, when faced consciously, is not meaningless. It is preparation. It equips you with the tools to not only protect yourself, but to uplift others. 4. Detachment from the ego. Another reason people hurt us is because our egos are fragile. The ego wants to be seen as perfect, respected, admired. When someone threatens that image, it feels unbearable. But Jung encouraged us to go beyond the ego, to connect with the deeper self that is not shaken by opinions. The self is not fragile. The self is eternal, whole, and rooted in something far greater than temporary judgments. When you learn to identify with yourself rather than your ego, insults lose their power. Betrayals no longer define you. The ups and downs of life become surface waves, while deep inside, your ocean remains calm. 5. A real-life example. Let's return to our earlier character, Maya. In part 1, we saw how Maya began to free herself from constant hurt by learning detachment and self-knowledge. But her journey didn't stop there. One day, a close friend betrayed her trust. The old Maya would have been shattered, but now, she paused. She asked herself, what part of me is hurting right now? What shadow has been touched? She realized that the betrayal hurt so much because it awakened her deepest fear of abandonment. Instead of running from that fear, she faced it. She journaled, reflected, and admitted, yes, I am afraid of being left alone, but that fear no longer controls me. Through this process, she transformed her pain into strength. The betrayal became a lesson in boundaries, self-respect, and resilience. And in time, Maya became a mentor to others who had faced betrayal, guiding them with wisdom born from her own wounds. 6. Freedom from emotional slavery. The ultimate goal of Jung's teachings is freedom. Freedom from being a slave to the unconscious, to projections, to shadows. When you stop being controlled by your wounds, by your ego, by the opinions of others, you become free. You no longer need constant approval. You no longer crumble under rejection. You no longer carry the weight of betrayal. This doesn't mean life becomes painless. It means pain no longer defines you. Nothing and nobody can truly hurt you anymore, because you have transformed hurt into strength. Ending teaser for part 3. So in part 2, we've gone deeper into Jung's wisdom. We've learned to face the shadow, to practice inner alchemy, and to step into the archetype of the wounded healer. But there's one final step. In part 3, we'll uncover Jung's ultimate vision of transformation. How to live so aligned with your authentic self that you don't just survive hurt, you transcend it completely. This is not just resilience, this is liberation. Because when you reach this level, nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. In part 1, we explored projection, self-knowledge, and the art of detachment. In part 2, we dove into the shadow, the process of inner alchemy, and the archetype of the wounded healer. Now, in this final part, we go deeper than ever before, because Carl Jung didn't just teach us how to survive pain, or even transform it. He showed us the path to ultimate freedom, a state of being where you live so authentically, so in alignment with your true self, that nothing and nobody can hurt you anymore. This is not about escape, it's about transcendence. Let's begin. 1. Individuation. Becoming your true self. At the heart of Jung's psychology is the process of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are. Most people never reach this state. They live as masks, personas designed to please society, family, and expectations. They spend their lives trying to be acceptable rather than authentic, and that's why they are so easily hurt. Because when you live through a mask, every criticism feels like a dagger, every rejection feels like death. Your identity is fragile because it isn't real. But individuation changes everything. It means stripping away the false layers and living as your true self. The self is whole. The self is beyond judgment. The self cannot be hurt by gossip, betrayal, or rejection. When you individuate, you no longer live for approval. You live for truth. And in that truth, you are untouchable. 2. The power of solitude. Jung himself valued solitude deeply. He once wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that are important to you." To Jung, solitude wasn't emptiness. It was power. It was a place where you could hear the voice of your true self without the noise of society. This is why so many people stay hurt. They are terrified of being alone. They cling to toxic relationships, destructive environments, and false identities, just to avoid silence. But in doing so, they keep wounding themselves. The moment you embrace solitude, you realize you are already whole. You do not need anyone else to complete you, and when you no longer need anyone to complete you, nobody has the power to break you. 3. Transcending the persona. Jung explained that we all wear a persona, the social mask we present to the world. It is necessary for functioning in society, but it is not who we truly are. The danger comes when we mistake the persona for our real identity. When that happens, every attack on the mask feels like an attack on us. And that is why people's words cut so deeply. Because we have fused ourselves with an illusion. True liberation comes when you can use the persona without being trapped by it. You wear it like a coat, not like skin. You know it serves a purpose, but you don't mistake it for your soul. So when someone insults your mask, you can smile, because deep down, they are not touching the real you. Living symbolically. One of Jung's greatest insights was that human beings are not satisfied with just material success. We crave meaning. And much of our suffering comes from living lives that lack meaning. When you live only for status, wealth, or external validation, every setback hurts. A job loss feels like the end of the world. A rejection feels like a collapse of your identity. But when you live symbolically, when your life is rooted in deeper meaning, in archetypes, in myth, in purpose, the ups and downs of daily life no longer crush you. You see yourself as part of a larger story. You understand that every hardship is a chapter in your growth. This shift in perspective is profound. Suddenly, life stops being a series of wounds and becomes a heroic journey. And on that journey, no temporary pain can break you. 5. The self as center and totality. Jung believed that the self, not the ego, is the true center of the psyche. The self is vast, eternal, connected to something beyond the individual. When you live from the ego, you are fragile. The ego is small, defensive, always hungry for validation. But when you live from the self, you are expansive. You realize that you are more than your job, your relationships, your reputation. This realization is the ultimate protection, because once you know who you are in essence, a being far deeper than any surface identity, no insult, betrayal, or loss can shatter you. You may feel pain, yes, but you are not destroyed by it. The self cannot be destroyed. 6. Integration of opposites. Jung also taught that wholeness comes from integrating opposites, light and dark, joy and pain, strength and weakness. Most suffering comes from resistance, from trying to accept only the good and deny the bad. But life is both, and when you accept both, suffering loses its sting. For example, if you accept that betrayal is part of human nature, you are no longer devastated when it happens. If you accept that loss is part of love, you cherish relationships without fear. Integration creates equanimity, and in equanimity, you cannot be shaken. 7. A story of transcendence. Let's return to our character, Maya, one last time. After her journey through projection, detachment, and shadow work, she finally reaches a point of individuation. She no longer lives for approval. She no longer hides behind masks. One day, she faces the ultimate test. Someone spreads lies about her in her community. The old Maya would have crumbled. But now, she smiles. She knows that gossip touches only her persona, not herself. She doesn't lash out. She doesn't collapse. She simply continues walking her path, unshaken. For the first time in her life, she feels untouchable. Because the truth is clear. Nothing and nobody can hurt her anymore. Not because the world has changed, but because she has. 8. Practical steps to reach this state. To bring all of this together, let's summarize some practical Jungian steps. Face your shadow. Acknowledge your hidden fears and flaws. Practice inner alchemy. Turn pain into wisdom through reflection. Detach from the persona. Remember, your mask is not yourself. Embrace solitude. Learn to enjoy your own company. Seek meaning. Live symbolically, not just materially. Identify with the self. Connect with the eternal part of your psyche. Integrate opposites. Accept life's wholeness instead of resisting it. Do these consistently, and slowly. You'll find that nothing outside of you has the power to wound you anymore. 9. The final transformation. Carl Jung's teachings were never about avoiding life or hiding from challenges. They were about transformation. About becoming so deeply rooted in your authentic self that you are free. Free from fear. Free from emotional slavery. Free from the wounds that once defined you. And in that freedom, you discover something extraordinary. You don't just protect yourself from being hurt. You become a beacon for others. Your very presence radiates strength, calm, and wisdom. Because the person who cannot be hurt is not cold or hard. They are warm, compassionate, and unshakable. They have walked through the fire and emerged as light. Ending. Closing message. So here is the truth Jung left us with. You cannot stop the world from being cruel. You cannot stop people from betraying, rejecting, or judging you. But you can change yourself so profoundly that none of it breaks you. When you face your shadow, practice inner alchemy, embrace solitude, and live as your true self, you become untouchable. And in that state, nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. Not because the world has changed, but because you have.